Everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Track. This is episode 36-ish. I'm going to go 35 to 37. I think we're somewhere in there, but we're in the mid-30s, and it's going to be a fun one. Welcome back. This one's going to be cool because we haven't talked to a race team manager in a while, so it's good to revisit that, especially this week while we are in Atlanta. So we'll find out what's going on this week because we got 3 races in a week here. And this guy, I'm assuming, is somewhat busy. It's Chris Elliott from Team Solitaire Nuclear Blast Yamaha. Chris, welcome to Beyond the Track.
Hey, Daniel, thank you. I'm really honored to be part of episode 36-ish.
36-ish. All right. I mean,
yeah.
30. Do you feel 35 to 37 gives me a range? Because in the comments, I'll get lit up if I'm off by 1.
I think you're closer to the 35, so I think 35 to 40, you're pretty safe.
There it is. See, you even opened it up bigger for me. I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's start with your week. Like what's going on this week? I mean, and take me through, because I've talked to team managers, but it was mostly in the preseason. What's it like for you on a week like this where we got 3 races? Yesterday's was a weird one. This is, a little muddy in the day. Then it got pretty good at the end. Just take me through your responsibilities and what you got going on this week.
Well, the first thing I could tell you that definitely a West Coast-based team traveling to Atlanta is never fun. So we start our week off with some pretty long travel. And then we get in pretty late Thursday, set up, get all ready for mud, and, get the gear prepped. Everyone gets in a little bit later than usual. But we got hardworking mechanics, and it hasn't been too bad. So, the crew's been working hard, and we were excited to get yesterday done.
Yeah, now you get ready for Tuesday, which is the shorter break. I mean, is it pretty much just decompress from one and immediately start building for the next one? What do you do with that limited time?
There was no decompression yesterday. I'm in the lounge right now. If I open the door to the right of me and showed you, there's 2 motorcycles completely torn down and 2 mechanics that have not slept yet. So they got right to it. Me and Clarky got some sleep, but those guys have been working through the night. They had a little bit of breakfast about an hour ago, but they're back to work.
We're going to get into Clarky. All right. There's some stories floating around about me that's coming from Ryan Clark that I think we're going to need to clean up at some point during this interview. I will say right now, my diet is not the best. It never has been, but I think there's a little exaggeration going on in some of these stories. So we'll get into Clarky later in this interview. All right. I want to start with you though. You're the race team manager, which means you do a little bit of everything. Right? You do everything a little bit. But I want to know how you got to this point, your background. So kind of take me through at least the racing side of your background and how we got to today where you're the race team manager of Team Solitaire.
It's kind of funny because I grew up in Canada and I only raced for 4 or 5 years. I can't honestly tell you that I grew up dreaming of being in Supercross or working for a team or anything like that. It all kind of happened by accident and just had a lot of really cool people on the way help me out. When I lived in Canada, I enjoyed blogging. And so what I would do is I would blog about freestyle motocross content. From there, I started enjoying it more and more and more. And I hit up a couple of websites and I would write content for free, right? From there, I started with like some local guys. And the further along I got, I started getting like the Adam Jones, the Kyle Lozes, like the bigger guys of the world, right? So the content that I was creating didn't really have a spot anymore. So I started my own website called fmxnews.com, which I ran for a little while. And again, I have no idea how it happened. It was a complete accident. Somewhere along the way, a gentleman from ESPN seen my website, and there was obviously a little bit of a void because it was kind of like a niche sport, freestyle motocross at the time, and it was kind of on its way out. And he needed content, and he approached me and asked me if I would be willing to do some contract work, some articles, and I did, and that's kind of got my foot in the door. It kind of went from some freestyle motocross, and it slowly transitioned to actually some Supercross content. And then from there, I started going to the races a little more, and I was more of a writer than anything to start. It's kind of a long story, so bear with me. But from there, when ESPN dissolved their sports-specific articles, I kind of transitioned into digital marketing. And a gentleman I met along the way from the Metal Militia, Shane Ruiz, gave me a job to do basically, honestly, just digital marketing contracts through weekends. Like we did stuff for the Super Bowl, Replay XD, Sony, a lot of car racing. We did some motocross brands. But that led me to leading up to the Supercross year of 2016, I believe. He said, hey, why don't you reach out to some smaller Supercross teams about maybe some media contracts, because those could be pretty easy for you to get them done. So we it was Slayton Racing. They were a team for a few. Didn't you ever Slayton Racing?
I did. I rode for them. They're
Yeah.
local to me. They're NorCal guys.
Okay.
So I know them very well.
Yeah, very nice people. So I hopped on board to help them with kind of their marketing effort. And Ryan, on the other side of the West Coast in Phoenix, he jumped on as kind of like a consultant through the gentleman that was doing their suspension to kind of help out. Slowly along the way, like we ended up switching brands, and it was a gentleman from Canada that I spoke to about Cole Thompson. We brought Cole Thompson over. Somewhere along the way, like Ryan and I ended up with a little bit more than we planned on. But we gelled a lot, and that's kind of jumping ahead, but that's where Ryan Clark and I met. And it all started in Canada at a blog, you know, a couple websites, ping, ESPN, just a bunch of weird things that if you did it again, it would never, ever happen. And I would never, ever meet Ryan. And we wouldn't be sitting in a lounge in Atlanta.
So writing blogs to a team manager in Atlanta at Atlanta Motor Speedway, a lot of twists and turns along the way. But to your point, it's really hard to look back and say that could have happened again, right? Like, I mean, how many specific things had to have happened that were very intricate in this story to make that work, right? I mean, little moments don't count, but the big moments, it's weird how that works out sometimes.
No, it makes zero sense because, again, if you went back and did it, there's no way you have that same trajectory. It started in Canada. The only reason why we eventually moved back to California is because my wife is from California, right? I never would have came back. Obviously, I played hockey in California when I was younger. She came back and she finished school. And then after we had our first child, she was over the cold and we moved back, right? But yeah, when I like every step of the way, it was weird to me because, again, it's not something I ever strived for. It was something that just kept happening. It was really weird. And, you know, like I was saying, I'd be sitting in my basement in Canada writing for ESPN thinking like, it doesn't make any sense. People, you know what I mean? If you told people, they think I was lying, right? But yeah, again, it's just one thing after another. And like, I've never been a good writer, and I've never been, you know, good at marketing. I've always just had really supportive, cool people that have made me look good or been extremely helpful along the way, whether it was the editors at ESPN or the people that brought me on for marketing contracts or the brands that I work with or you know, Ryan or mechanics. Just everyone's just, you're a product of your environment. And I've just been super fortunate over the years to have all these people help me basically, again, end up in a lounge in Atlanta. So it's been cool.
Okay. Let me throw this at you then. Race team manager, marketing, writing, all these different things you've done. Which one do you like the most as far as that you enjoy doing? And which one do you think you've been the best at? Because again, you just said it's about the people around you that make you good, right? And I'm a big believer in that. It's about the team. It's not about the individual, but you are obviously having individual success because you are where you are for a reason. Which one of those do you think you're the best at? And which one do you actually like on the day-to-day? Which one was the most enjoyable?
So of all the things I do now, this is a super Canadian answer because I grew up playing hockey, like a team sport, right? But I like this part of it, right? We have two mechanics, a truck driver, me and Ryan, and then we have really cool parents and friends of the riders and da-da-da. But this is the closest thing I have to like a team environment where we all go to, you know, battle together every Saturday night. And if one guy slips up, right? Like that's the thing about, say, like, it's always impressive to see Ryan because like Ryan's a guy who obviously, like you were a professional supercrosser. You were both very successful in your own right, and you continue to be successful. But like I said, I was joking with you earlier, like Ryan will scrub a toilet if it needs to be scrubbed. You know, Ryan cooked breakfast this morning. I don't like, we're one team, and it's rewarding to, you know, be successful together, but it's also, I don't want to say rewarding, but it makes it easier when we don't have success. I don't think we ever waver of supporting each other and just keep moving forward and trying our best and having each other's back. And so that's, to me, is what's the most enjoyable about the whole thing.
So talking about the team then, it's a small team, obviously. Ryan, again, as much as he wants to make funny stories about me, I will say I love Ryan. I think he's extremely intelligent. I've always thought that about him. What's it been like working with him, again, where you're kind of running the race team management side of things, which obviously he could pull off, but his duties are going to be a little bit different than yours. So how do you and him work together? And then how do you kind of bank on him for some of the decisions that you have to ultimately make?
Yeah. So I think like Ryan and I are like kind of like 1A and 1B, and that's very helpful because I think a lot of times I'm very business minded. Like, we're doing this. I mean, if you don't run this like a business with the intent of being profitable, you will lose your shirt very quickly, right? And Ryan is first and foremost 100% still pro rider, right? Ryan would sell the rental car in the back to give the rider something he needed tomorrow. That's how he is, right? But I'm like, well, no, we need the rental car to get to the airport, and your wife will be mad at you. So I think that we're kind of like yin and yang in that sense. It's been super helpful. And like Ryan, I learned so much from Ryan every day. And like you said, Ryan's a smart guy. And Ryan's really funny in the sense of like, if Ryan didn't tell you he raced Supercross, you have no idea. If you walk into his house now, you wouldn't know he rode a dirt bike. But then Ryan was a pretty bad dude, right? So no, just again, Ryan, mechanics, everyone, you learn so much from everyone. And again, we all just help each other so much. And if something needs to get done, it gets done. There's no egos. It works great.
Again, this is going to be an odd question because I'm going to be gloating for you. But I know Ryan in the past has done Team Solitaire, and he's taken on a lot on himself. And he's one of those guys that will take on more than he probably can handle. Obviously, the team looks good now. You guys got a great program going. Has Ryan been more willing to allow responsibilities to go outside of himself? Because he'll take on 20 things at one time. I know he's that way. So do you see the team right now, the way it's structured and allowing you to kind of have your responsibilities? Again, he has his input, but has that been, do you think, a challenge for him to be able to delegate that way? Because Ryan, he's just like too smart for his own good. He's good at every single thing. So I see the team right now and the dynamic and having you in place, the mechanics, the structure. It seems like a good thing for him to be able to trust in people to help him do this thing.
We argue a lot, but like we both want the best thing. And like, honestly, like we'll argue all day and we'll come down in the middle, which is usually good. Cause like I said, he's over here, I'm over here, we end up here and it's working. But no, the mechanics call us mom and dad. I'm not going to tell you which one they call mom or dad, but I was just going to say they call us mom and dad. So Ryan's been good. I think, you know, we kind of know our places in the sense of like, I will listen to the logistics of like, say what we're going to do with our motor packages or our suspension, right? Because it all has to line up as far as a budget and it has to make sense for, you know, the 9 rounds we're racing. But for the most part, I mean, I know my place in that sense. Like Ryan's basically taken over all that kind of development and overseeing all that. Obviously he should, right? And then again on race day, right? He's there for the guys. I mean, they obviously have their families there as well. And that's always a dynamic that, you know, we're able to handle. But Ryan's kind of there to be that calming effect for the guys on race day. And that allows me, while he's busy with that, I basically just oversee kind of the circus, if you will, right? Whether, because you know how it is. I mean, this year's a little different because not as much things come up because of the no fans and it's a little bit less of a show per se. So the variables aren't as large, but on a normal season, I mean, dude, you wake up and you think your day's going to go one way. And you go to bed at night, it's like, oh my God, like that. I did not see 10 of those things coming. And that's even before you talk about bike issues or fire drills. I mean, a couple of years ago when we were chatting on the floor in Anaheim, I mean, Mitchell Harrison passed the lead 2 seconds later, we're doing an engine swap for 30 minutes left and he's back out. Like the days have so many highs and lows. So it's good for Ryan and I where we have the trust. Like I know I don't have to worry a single thing about my riders or the bikes or the mechanics. And I could just focus on what I need to focus on. And that's, you know, the 53 feet of the semi-haul or in the pit in the area. And, you know, we kind of trust each other and just go from there.
I like to use the terms macro and micro a lot, not only from a racing standpoint, but just in life in general. Do you feel like the reason why you guys are fitting well is you have a lot of macro level responsibilities and he gets to kind of fine tune those micro with the riders, the engine, those kind of things where, again, he does a lot of the crossing of the T and dotting of the I's, but you actually handle the T and the I. You know what I mean? Is that why you think maybe you guys are working well?
I think so. And when you have two people like that trust each other and you're able to do that, I think that's the best way to do it because like we couldn't do it without each other. We wouldn't want to do it with each other, right? Like it wouldn't work as well. So you kind of nailed it right there. I mean, it's a matter of it's exactly that. I mean, if I didn't have Ryan, I couldn't do it. If I didn't have me, he could maybe pull it off, but I would say he wouldn't have any hair left. But yeah, no, it'd be a little bit tougher. So yeah.
Well, and it's just funny because, like you said, the team calls you mom and dad, which is funny because my wife and I during the break we had a long discussion just about you know, our marriage and our kids and everything. And it's the same way. Like I'm on the macro, like I'm handling all the big things in life. I fall apart on the little things, and she is all little things. She literally keeps it all glued together, and I kind of like drive us forward. And it's the way we work. It's because she, again, she can't really handle the macro things that I handle, and I can't stomach the little tiny things that she has to go through where she's at her best. So it's just finding that perfect pair. And obviously it sounds like you guys have found it. Moving on to your riders. So I love both your riders for different reasons. Hardee, which on my podcast, I call him Tom Hardee Munoz, because it's just Tom Hardy's like one of the coolest actors ever. But dude, he in Daytona, I mean, he just earned my respect. All right. Because the dude was going for it. He was in second in the LCQ, which means you're in, but he's like, no, I'm not done here. And he's going. So I'm like, dude, I love this dude. He goes for it. Then you got Wageman, which for me, I'm an entrepreneur. I have things outside of racing, which he does too, which I find to be just so rad. I respect him so much for that. So I love your guys, but I don't really know your guys that well past what I know of them in the truck and how they act. How's my guy Tom Hardee, and how's Wageman?
Okay, let's start with Wageman because it's a little bit of an easier answer. Robbie's like kind of like your typical grown up in SoCal motocross kid who's smooth as butter, you know what I mean? Comes from a motocross family. Super polite, super grateful. Family's great, you know, like his dad, everyone, they're just awesome. And he's a little shy when you first get to know him, but once you get to know him, he kind of loosens up. And his honestly, like he ends up being kind of like his style on the dirt bike. Like he's smooth, he's calculated, he's a good kid. And like you said, yeah, like our jerky, him and his brother have that thing. And I want to tell you the two-stroke nationals, the real two-stroke national story before we get off here. And then Hardee Munoz. So Hardee's, you know, Hardee, it's interesting. So Hardee's a fast kid, and he hasn't really gotten that much support. He's been here for 5 or 6 years, right? Like we kind of think he was overlooked. And obviously Hardee was a fill-in rider for a rider we were going to bring over from Australia, Aaron Tonti, that had visa issues. When we got Hardee, the first thing we know about Hardee is one, he's, you know, just the culture and who is. He's super polite, super grateful, just enjoyable to be around. He actually moved in with Ryan for a couple months. And, you know, kind of took in the family. But Hardee wants to win, right? And Hardee has a lot of drive and grit. And there's a lot of riders over the years that I'm sure you've seen that if they had just a little bit of Hardee, they'd go a lot further, right? So, you know, Hardee definitely has some things around the edges he needs to clean up as far as Supercross go, as far as technique and stuff. But he wants to win, man. It doesn't matter if it's the LCQ, if it doesn't matter if it's the second lap of the first practice. And that's turned into some confrontations in the pits after the sessions. But honestly, like,
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, honestly, like I would rather deal with that and you know, kind of calm that down than have a guy that basically, like, we spend a lot of money to come here, right? And I understand it if you're not good enough to make a main event, or you're not, our bikes are lacking, or whatever the situation is. But if we spend all this money and we leave our families and we come here and you just don't try, or you don't care, or you pack it in early, that'd be the only thing I'd be mad about. And that's the one thing with Hardee I never have to worry about. Like I said, I got to worry about some things maybe after some sessions or some races, but I'll deal with that all day as long as you're giving it your all, because that's what we do, right? So they're both great kids. They're both super respectful. They're totally different people. So it's taken a while for them to kind of warm up to each other and kind of, you know, get that vibe going in the truck, but we're getting there.
The one thing again with Hardee's, I know just from Daytona that you said he wants to win. Again, I felt like that LCQ, he could have just got in, no problem, but he was like,
yeah,
no, like I'm going to win. And we don't see that often. And I'm just laughing because it's like, I remember me, and I'm sure you heard from Clark about different parts of my personality. I'm thinking in the math, I'm like, oh, I'm in the main. I ain't playing around with nothing. I'm managing this thing. I'm just getting in. And yet he is going for front tires. He wanted that dub so bad. So again, I think you're probably dealing with some after effects here and there because the dude wants it. But hey, I'll throw this at you though. You look at Cameron McAdoo right now. He's a rider who is chasing a championship. He's always been the same way. Like it took a while for him to clean things up. He still has little things to clean up, but the effort is relentlessly all in. And me personally, I think that's an easier person to work with because you just got to tighten it all up. The heart, it's hard to clean up the heart. If the heart's all in, you got something, right?
That's the thing. I mean, we get these kids when they're 18 or 19 years old. There's so many character traits that are just burnt into their being by that time that we typically, I mean, it's nice if we have a guy for 1 or 2 years, but sometimes we're one and done, right? we're not going to change their makeup in 1 year.
Yeah.
So to have someone that has that drive and that effort and that will to win, whether he breaks a lot of parts or he goes for a lot of front tires, I mean, that's par for the course. But again, like, pick your poison. Do you want someone that's not going to go for it, or do you want someone that's going to go for it? And I'm going to pick a guy that goes for it all day long. So we're cool with it.
Yeah, it's rad. I like your guys for sure.
Yeah.
So your team is cool. Obviously, Yamaha has a great package. You see what the Club MX team's doing. You see what Star Racing Yamaha's doing. You guys, you're on a great brand. Obviously, Ryan loves Yamaha. He's a Yamaha guy through and through. But what stands out with your guys' team is Nuclear Blast. I mean, I'm a music guy, ex-music guy, let's just say. And to have them as part of the team, there's just a cool factor to that. How involved are they? Tell me a little bit about that relationship. And again, when you're looking at sponsors for teams, man, if you can get outside of the industry and get some support, I think that's rad. But we're talking the music industry here. There's like an extra cool factor. So take me through that relationship a little bit and kind of walk me through Nuclear Blast.
All right. So the first thing I'm going to say is I did hear a rumor that there is a certain band back in the studio that you may have been affiliated with prior. Is that not correct? No one's brother's writing new music. There might not be new music coming out. There's nothing's going on. Are you done?
There is music there. Well, me and my brother are writing more music again. It's been a while. We haven't released anything in a long time, but we're having a debate over the style. We're both into a lot of different styles. So we're at a standstill because we have a lot of options moving forward. We haven't really figured out exactly which way we want to go. So that we'll leave that. That's a separate conversation. I don't want to bring my brother. I'll get my blood boiling if we talk about my brother right now. So
all right. Well, when you're ready, you send it over. We'll take a listen. So yeah, Nuclear Blast. I mean, Nuclear Blast, again, going back to Ryan, it didn't have as much of a presence, but Nuclear Blast has been helping Ryan since I think 2009 or something like that. So Gerardo, the label manager for Nuclear Blast Record, is like a big F1 car and moto fan. And Ryan has stayed in touch with him. And going back to the first year with Slayton Racing, when Ryan and I realized that, we're going to be a little bit more part of what it was. And Ryan made a phone call to Nuclear Blast to kind of help with the cost of bringing over Cole Thompson from Canada. And Gerardo jumped on board right away and never left. It's something where it's not only helpful, obviously, from a financial side, having a big label like that. It's very helpful from an activation side and really bringing validity to us from the get. Like how Rob Zombie, like a lot of big legacy bands. And not only that, Gerardo was so into the team and so into just the sport itself that, I mean, I can call him about anything. There's things that we've done that maybe I've gotten credit for, Ryan's gotten credit for, that honestly, man, was basically the Nuclear Blast strategy team holding our hand the entire way through. So it's been really helpful from not only like an event activation side that they've helped with, but from the digital side and just right through the program, kind of ping-ponging off them. Like I can call him at any time, right? And they're dealing with stuff way bigger than us, but he's a fan. He wants to help. And the one thing I was talking about, I can't even remember, it was a couple of days ago. It was Rutledge Wood. He came over and talked to us. And the one thing that I pointed out to him, and it's people always talk about industry sponsors and outside industry sponsors and how it's hard to get sponsors and, maybe there's not a value there. Well, the music industry has been decimated over the last couple of years, and that logo has not left the truck. It's worked out great because their demographic, that 18 to 36, and it's heavy metal and it's punk and it's motocross, is lined up so well, and there's such a value for them to be around. And I think that's really encouraging moving forward, that if as a sport we can find those sponsors, they're not going to go anywhere. It's just a matter of getting them. So for smaller teams like ours, it's been really cool, and they've been really helpful even finding other sponsors using kind of their model. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, I again, just as a music background guy, I love that side. You got to remember too, moto fans, they all listen to music, right? I mean, I think back to the Strung Out days. In fact, it's funny because Ryan Clark is one of the reasons why I got into Strung Out and some of those bands, because I was spending time with him, which we're going to get to again, because you said Hardee moved in with Ryan, which I did as well. So a lot of my music interests in certain avenues, especially the punk angle, came from Ryan. And it's cool to see that he, with his music interest, has brought in a relationship like that. And I guess what stands out to me and what you're saying is their involvement with you guys, because sometimes you'll hear about a sponsor that financially helps, but they're just kind of like whatever. Mm-hmm. But you're telling me that they are involved from a creative side, a digital side. I mean, how cool is that? And what have you learned from them? Because they're coming from a different angle. They're not coming from the moto side. They're coming from a music side. So what have you learned from them?
That's a great question. I think so. Yeah, it's not just Gerardo. I mean, I can call the creative team and they will do stuff for us and things like that. And I think the biggest thing for them is like, what we've learned is when we come to an event, obviously we have our 20x20 activation area on a normal year, and we're zoned in on like, okay, what do we do for moto guys? And that's a good thing. But I think with them is they deal with so much across the board in different festivals in different ways. I mean, Nuclear Blast sponsors robot battles. Awesome. They've included us at their activation for Comic-Con. So they've kind of gone out of the box on not just honing in on like a certain demographic as far as what the music is. They've gone across the world. Like I said, if you went over there and you'd see the collaborations they do now, and that's Gerardo and his creative team, it's all across the board, and some of it makes no sense to you, but then you learn about the logistics of it, and it makes total sense. And I think for us, like Tommy and Gerardo, those guys have taught us to not just look at it from like moto, but also look at it like, and it's hard because I mean, we're talking about heavy metal, but not heavy metal, but just across the board. Like, can you also get the mom that's walking up with her kid into your deal? What is that? How is it you can get, or grandma or Uncle Dave that knows nothing about motocross? It's not just about, because the guys that are there for motocross are there for motocross. It's looking beyond that. And they've been extremely helpful for us and helped us cross over in a variety of different things that have given us a lot of exposure that we never would have got. Because if you just, for a smaller team like ours, if you just stick within the motor industry, it's really hard to like elbow star racing out of the way. It's not going to happen. I mean, we're parked a mile away from them. Some people don't even end up coming to our truck, right? So how can we draw on the people, set ourselves apart from Star Racing or Factory Honda or whoever it is, and kind of leapfrog them digitally and add a ground for activation level at the events? And that's kind of where they've come in and helped us out a lot.
Get Rob Zombie out to a race. I think that would... that might draw.
That might draw, and he's a race fan too. So you know that it's cool. Like we'll do stuff with them, and sometimes bands will reach out to us and be like, I had no idea this is sick. That even though, and yeah, so it's been really cool. All the bands have been super gracious to us too. Like when we, as far as like, you know how it is, like as far as getting licensing goes or songs, or even like we'll probably get into the Slayer stuff. I mean, the bands have been absolutely totally cool, made it super easy, and yeah, it's been awesome.
Let's talk again about Ryan. Let's get into like you say, Hardee moves in with him. What have you heard from that relationship? Because again, when me and Ryan worked together for a little bit, I was young and I was not really playing ball with the diet stuff that Ryan wanted. How has Hardee and Ryan been?
Hardee and Ryan's been going good. It's funny because Ryan has two younger boys in the house, and I call when I would go down there and kind of see that I started calling him Uncle Hardee because the kids love him, right? He's going to the pump track with them, and Ryan's kind of like overseeing his program and stuff. Because Hardee's, how I understand it is like Hardee's family has lived in Chile most of the time, and he's lived here. He's just lived in a motorhome by himself, right? So when he got to live with Ryan and his wife Cassandra, cooking for him, playing with the kids, the pool and all that, he's had a lot of fun, and it really helped open up Hardee and kind of get him out of his shell quicker than it probably would have happened normally. So he instantly became part of the family too, right? But when he did move in, I mean, it confirmed all the things that we thought of Hardee, like absolute workhorse, bulldog, no matter what he does, right? Whether he touches a BMX bike or he's playing football in the backyard, 100% effort, right? And two, like it's been cool because he's super respectful and super grateful for everything we do for him. So he was an easy house guest is what I understand.
Do you feel for him that maybe just makes it feel more like home? Because again, it doesn't even matter where you're at. If you're in a motorhome and you're staying the majority in a motorhome, you don't ever feel home all the way. You feel like you're on wheels. Yeah. So you feel like for him, that was a chance for him to kind of just put his feet on the ground and feel like he was in a home environment. And then obviously from there, you feel comfortable. You can start opening up and getting more comfortable.
Yeah. I think it was absolutely crucial to our team and kind of the whole environment of the team, because I think if he didn't have that couple of months to get used to that family environment and get used to Ryan, and when I flew down there, get used to me and that stuff, I think if he would have rolled up, we did some testing sessions, whatever, and then rolled up at A1 and we met his family and it would have been a little bit harder to kind of have that vibe that we kind of go for in the pit. Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense. All right, so let's get into these rumors.
Okay.
What have you heard about me from Ryan? I need to hear your side first before I say mine. What have you heard?
All right. Well, I've heard, I remember you when I was younger from the LBC days of that gear in Metrodome. But what I've been told is very talented rider, very nice guy. Work ethic off the bike, a little bit questionable at times. I've been given a very specific story that included you going for runs that would have a pit stop at a certain pizza place near where you're living. You would have a quick lunch. You would run back, and somewhere along the way, wet your face with a hose to make it look like you ran. But all the while, you never really did run.
Oh my gosh. There's some of that is accurate. It's not.
Okay. All right.
Can I tell my side of the story? Because I know specifically exactly what I was doing, and it was not a pizza place for one. Okay. So I moved to Albuquerque and lived with Ryan, and that was a big move for me. I was moving away from home. I was kind of like jumping out there, just had a girlfriend, didn't have a wife yet. She was just my girlfriend. So I did all that. And the first thing Ryan said to me was, hey, your work ethic off the bike needs to get up. You're a good rider. You ride hard. You'll do your laps, but man, you don't do anything else. And okay, I'm down with that. I'll work harder, which I did. Mm-hmm. Where I had the problem was the diet. Now, I don't eat good. Okay. I never have, never will. Ryan was very strict. And instead of easing me into a better diet, he wanted to rip the Band-Aid off and just completely change me. And it was like shell shock for me. I mean, we're talking no mayonnaise, which how am I supposed to eat a sandwich without mayonnaise? And then it was like, well, you shouldn't be having a sandwich anyway because the bread. I'm like, wait, what? Like, okay. So I had a running program in Albuquerque, and on my running program, I would run and I would stop at a Subway. At that Subway, I would get a sandwich. There was bread, and I would put the mayonnaise on, and I was cheating the diet without question. The water on the face, where did that come from? That is not true. I never did that. I did do the run, but I snuck in a sandwich with mayonnaise. So
were you able to get a sweat? Were you able to get a sweat in on the way home? Do you need the water?
No, I'm not a big sweater. I mean, even right now, I could literally work out. I could ride. I would never sweat. My goggles would never. I'm not a sweater, probably because I wasn't very hydrated at most times. So
you were drinking enough water.
Yeah, because I was drinking, Diet Cokes. But anyway, so Ryan is right. I did have an off the bike problem. I had a diet problem, but those details, those are fuzzy. And I'm gonna have to talk to Ryan about those because it was not pizza, it was Subway, and it was just mayonnaise, bro. Ask him what the problem with mayonnaise is. Sandwiches are dry, man.
He's on the same program. We grocery shop in different aisles, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He didn't make me exercise. Did you make it to the first round?
No, I did not. I couldn't do it.
Just checking.
It got to the point where I could not do it, and there was other reasons too. We were waiting around on 2-stroke, 4-stroke stuff, and I ended up getting an offer from a dealership that gave me bikes, and then the LBC thing came about. So there was a couple other things that came into play, but I will say
was it that year?
It was before that. It was the end of 2003 going into 2004.
Oh, you're better off. You're good. It worked out.
So I ended up wearing LBZ and I had that year, and it was all great. Perfect. But anyways, I loved working with Ryan. The one thing I liked about him was he was ultra detailed, which I'm assuming you work with now on the team when it comes to the bikes, the prep, the mental side for his riders. I love that part of Ryan. He was the word I'll use is like a tactician. Everything mattered detail wise. So to piggyback off that, are you still seeing the same things from him as far as the way he approaches the bike? I know you guys got a good bike, and I wouldn't expect less from him, but the way he approaches the riders and everything, is Ryan the same in that regard?
Yeah, he's definitely the exact same. I mean, he's questioning how much water you drank today. He's watching what you eat. It's a little different. Like if you're not, Hardee's in Florida now, and Robbie's never left California, so you can't oversee them day to day. But I mean, when you're under the truck on race weekend, you're on the program for sure. But again, it's just from a place of wanting him to do well. And he, like I said, he was a bad dude. So, you compare his results to what it was today. I mean, he was successful, and he just wants the guys to do good. And we just, if anything, if we could be a springboard for guys to maybe take a next step, and we kind of button up a few of those details that they're going to have figured out by the time they go to a Star Racing or a Mitch or someone, and that's what we want to do.
Goal wise, when you start out a season, like if you're Star Yamaha and you have Justin Cooper and Colt Nichols, Christian Craig, like you're chasing a title. Mm-hmm. It's like second's not good enough. That's not the goal. Mm-hmm. When it comes to a team of your size and your budget mm-hmm. and your riders, how do you guys look at goals? Is it season goals, weekly goals, a combination of both? Mm-hmm. And kind of how do you manage that throughout the season when things happen? I have to imagine the goals change it sometimes. You can't be just stubborn on one. So how do you guys approach your goals as a team and for your riders individually?
So a team like ours, I think there's 1A, there's 1B. 1A were results, right? A team like Star, number one, the results, nothing else matters. So for us, it's 1A. And what that is, I mean, we're at a point now where we need our two guys. There's no excuse you to be in the main event, right? That's our first job. Our job is to put bikes in the main event, be a good representative to Yamaha and finish the races. We think, like, for us, I think it's a pretty stacked field on the West Coast from that 8 to 20 range this year. It's kind of a toss up, to be honest with you. But most years, I think that we believe that we're in that 9 to 15 spot, given that our guys are always striving for more. And I'm like, if there's more, that's where we want to be. I mean, that's reality. And then for us, like 1B is honestly marketing for us. We're a team, like when we talk to Yamaha, we don't go to Yamaha and say, hey, we're here to win championships. Because guess what they're going to do? We'll get back to you, right? They know, we know what the deal is. The deal is we need to be a positive support to the manufacturer, but then also kind of be that different approach team. And we put just as much emphasis on marketing and activation as we do our results, right? And that's where it kind of comes with Ryan and I again, where Ryan, if you ask Ryan, it's results, right? And then if you ask me, it's marketing. I mean, we have to have that middle ground, because the reality of this sport is, when you talk about budgets and where I'm sitting right now and where the guys over there are sitting, it's not even at times in the same planet. When Robbie Wageman can pull a top 10, it's a big deal for us. It might not be a big deal for Star, but it's a big deal for us. It's a huge feat. So for us, I mean, if we had guys steadily creep around that top 10, that'd be huge for us. But like I said, we think if we're in that 8 to 15 range on most weekends and just we're in the main events. Like yesterday, obviously, guys in the main event, we're not very stoked today, but it was circumstantial and we understand that. So, but we can be okay with that because we know we put just as much effort into our marketing. You know what I mean? We delivered on all of our partners throughout the day. So we're not that dependent on results, because those results don't necessarily translate to dollars for us, because it's not how this work kind of works.
Do you feel like when it comes to the results side too, there's a lot of variables in how the outcome might be each day, but on the marketing side and the promotion side, there really isn't any variables that can throw you off. You guys can really control that messaging just by doing what you know you need to do. So is it kind of hard sometimes when, again, you might leave the day and go, man, we crushed it today in the areas that we could control, the marketing side, our promotion, our look, but we kind of had an off day in the results. And then some days it's like, dude, we nailed everything. Both guys crushed it. Both guys did good. And you know what I mean? Is that sometimes hard to balance, because you want both, but sometimes you don't get both?
To me, no. To Ryan, yes. I mean, that's the one thing we've argued about the most on since day one, is that you can only control one thing. You can control building a good bike that's going to last and be a good package for these guys, right? That's all you can control. Beyond that, we can't control anything. So to me, the idea of not putting just as much emphasis on marketing, and like you said, doing things you can control, has always been a struggle to me, but I think we found a really good balance now. I mean, I'll be really honest with you, and this is something people might not want to hear off the bat, but can you tell me who got 6th in the 250 class yesterday? Don't look at a result sheet. You can't.
I mean, that's like my job, and no. I know Hunter Lawrence got up to 7th.
Yeah.
Who got 6th?
I have no idea, but do you know how much money it probably cost that team to get 6th?
Right.
And do you know how many people are calling them today to congratulate them on their 6th place? It's a tough balancing act where you have to be responsible and understand that you have to build a really competitive package for these guys, because they're trusting you with their life and their career, right? Like I said, best case scenario, we end up being a springboard, because if we do grab a guy like Cycle Trader has in the past, like an Alex Martin or a Nichols or whoever you want to say it, what happens? They go to the next team, right? And then you hope you're catching fire again. But it's interesting where it's you kind of know where you fit in from the very get-go. And if you try to chase anything above that, it's going to be real tough on your budget. And again, I don't know if the return is there. So for, like you said, for us, it's just as important to focus on our marketing and our activation, because we can physically see a return on that, whether it's through data collection or just pure numbers. We can show that, and that's how we can sell ourselves moving forward. It's not the 6th place yesterday, because again, there's nothing to sell with that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I think back to the Hart and Huntington team. It was all about activation, all about promotion, being the funnest team in the pits. They did a really good job at that part. And then all of a sudden, there's Ricky Carmichael comes joining it. Now you're RCH and you win a championship with Ken Roczen. So I see what you're saying is you can only control that side of it in the beginning. The other side can come around to it. So if you nail that part of it, you can grow your profile. Maybe you are a springboard for a couple of guys. All of a sudden you catch one, or something changes, an ownership merge comes in. The next thing you know, you win an outdoor title. So it's funny, if you look at that timeline, what happened with Hart and Huntington turning into RCH and winning a championship. So I mean, I have to imagine that story kind of makes you go, yeah, look, it can happen. It's been done before, this model.
Well, yeah, exactly. You can make, I believe you can make that argument that happened purely based off of their approach from the get-go. They could have either focused on all their activation and marketing, or they could have spent every penny they had trying to fight with the factories on a better bike package or whatever that situation, or trying to find a rider to ride that bike that could, it might happen. But if I was betting with all the money in your pocket, I would bet that like you're probably better off going with a marketing approach and trying to build organically. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, all you can do is control your representation of yourself through the brands, right?
I love it. My last question for you, I'm going to tie in some of that marketing, because again, with the music side, you guys are doing things different. Dean Guitars, we got something cool going on with St. Jude with them. You had a big part of that. Kind of walk me through how that all happened, and then we'll kind of get into what is going to happen here with this auction.
So Dean Guitars, they jumped on board obviously through Nuclear Blast, right? It was a no-brainer. We like to do some things like that just to kind of push our brand ourselves. Like obviously we do some giveaways and of that nature and things to sell our t-shirts and things. But Dean Guitars jumped on board to give away a signed guitar. End of the year, correct? Did I lose you?
Yep, for a second, about 10 seconds.
Okay.
Let's do our own little 15-second rewind, boop, and go again. Here we go.
Perfect. So yeah, long story short, Nuclear Blast helped us get in with Dean Guitars. Dean Guitars has been a little bit of our program for this year. We've been doing a lot of guitar giveaways and just activation, showing everyone the guitars that from a distance in the pits. And they jumped on for the St. Jude auction. So they're going to give away a signed guitar through your guys' auction. And the label was a big part of that.
And the cool part is it's obviously this like freaking bright green guitar. Eli Tomac's already signed it. Working on maybe getting some other signatures on it, but we got the champ on there. And St. Jude again has been a huge partner of Supercross. We found creative ways to do giveaways, auctions, all the different campaigns. But this one's gonna be pretty cool. I maybe even doing something with it on Race Day Live in the next couple days. Just throwing that out there. I might be messing around with that thing a little bit, but
cool.
Yeah, totally cool. And again, that other angle, that outside angle, I know you have jerseys that you guys are going to do. Like there's a lot of little things like that, but dude, the guitar, like, come on, man, that's like a sick guitar signed by Eli Tomac. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. So the guitar is cool. And then we're, getting back to the marketing and the record label and stuff. On Tuesday, we're going to be running our Slayer tribute round. So we got helmets, bikes, jerseys, bar pad stands, you name it. So then the label offered up, if you guys are cool with it, they want to give away, you can't buy these. So there's a couple, there's a Munoz, you'll like this one. And then Wageman, we'll get the boys to sign, and we'll throw that in the auction too. And it's a great cause. And when I was asked about it, anything we can do to help with stuff like that, you know where to find us. Yeah,
I mean, that's the cool part of the industry is everyone's been on board, and you see these different things come up, like Carmichael and the motorcycle, and Dungy did with his ring. And for me personally, I like getting outside of just the traditional stuff. So having that guitar, I mean, that's just sick to me. And again, it makes it sick for you guys too. Again, trying to stand out in the pits and be different, having that music angle. It's just cool for me. Maybe I have a soft spot for it more than most. But anyways, final words from you. where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 15? I mean, I know you love what you're doing, but it also sounds like you're a creative person. Like your story, how it bounced from here to there. Where could your life go in the next 5 to 10 years, just with the way you are, the way the team is? Where do you see, if you could guess?
Probably still arguing with Ryan on race day. No, you know what? I'm a day by day kind of guy. You know, if I wake up, I'm happy. We've checked off the first box, and then beyond that, no, my wife, my kids, this is bonus for me, right? Like Ryan and I have jobs. That's the one thing that I probably would like to say before we sign off is our mechanics, our truck drivers are tired. Our mechanics both have full-time jobs at Crankworks. They're all veterans. Ryan and I both have full-time jobs. This is a side business for us that we take very seriously. But this is great. And our mechanics, Jillian and Bergie, they work so hard. Our truck driver, Ken, all of the guys' parents. And honestly, like, as long as, we're all employed and we're waking up every day and we have our families, everyone's happy and healthy. I mean, that's the only place we need to be in 10, 15 years. Right. And if we stop racing tomorrow, that's okay too. But if we keep it going, that's great. And yeah, I'm an easygoing guy.
Well, I love it. Love what you guys are doing. It was great to get you on here on Beyond the Track. So much to discuss, and look forward to seeing what you guys do on Tuesday with the Slayer line. Because like I said, I'm weak for that stuff, dude. You guys are killing it over there. So thanks for coming on the show, and good luck the rest of the year. Let's keep getting the results that you guys have been getting, and keep that promo going, because you guys are crushing it. Thank you.
All right.